I bet when we watch it now, you're so disappointed. It's going to look really naff.
It's going to look rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah. It's probably best to stop now.
I just know.
Oh, okay. That leads us on merrily to this week's podcast, folks. Hello. I hope you enjoyed that preamble of us rambling on here over here at Spectrum Days, the channel that likes to review films. This is our first one, and games. Well, I say review, more sort of try and remember them. We are two old farts from back in the day. Most of the information that we impart on this channel is, of course, terribly wrong. Most of it, that's because we can't remember anything. We aren't experts. We're just doing it from our memories. We usually then take a pause, go off, and in this case, we'll be watching Robocop and then coming back and seeing if it actually matched any of the memories that we come up with in the first half of the podcast. So, Chris, yeah, Robocop. You remember Robocop?
Yeah.
The film, that is.
Yeah, I remember Robocop. No, he was a nice chap. Robocop. Good bloke.
Met him, did you?
It was nice. So we think this came out in 1987 in the cinema.
Again, you may be wrong.
1988 on VHS cassette, which is in the UK. And that is, of course, what is the most important one for us because we were about 14 and I don't think we were sneaking into the cinema to watch Robocop. We would have had to have waited for it to come out on video cassette. I guess that's where you saw it, right, on VHS? Were you allowed to watch it?
This is really weird. I think we might have vaguely mentioned it. We did review the game Robocop, which I'll put the link in the description box below. We might have vaguely mentioned this weird phenomena that I don't suppose it's entirely unique to Robocop, but certainly seems to be one that I've noticed other people have got much the same story, other podcasters, YouTubers, when they talk about Robocop, they all say, oh yeah, I watched that when I was 11, or it seems to be universal that for some reason this really rather violent, disgusting, full-on, gross, death-filled, torture-filled, drug-filled film was watched by most people under the age that it was actually required to be to actually watch it. And I distinctly remember being one of those lucky, I suppose, kids who I was with my mum rather than my dad and mum. Usually when we went to the video shop, all of us would go. So I don't know where Dad was. Probably, as we've mentioned before, we've both got famous parents who go off playing gigs in their famous bands. We were often left to our own devices, which is probably why we watched video nasties. And our mums had affairs or whatever it was they were doing. None of this is true, of course. I assume, I don't remember. I do distinctly remember going to the video shop with my mum, and I did the usual looking around the shop for far too long. She probably just got a bit fed up. But I remember picking up Robocop and looking at it, and I think she might have instigated it. As I say, I think it might have been like, oh yeah, she wanted me to get out of the video shop.
Do you want to watch this one?
Yeah, why don't you get that one, sort of thing? And I was like, really? She went, yeah, of course. And went and paid the £2 or whatever it was to rent it for the weekend or whatever. And next thing you know, I'm watching some guy splatter over the bonnet of a car and somebody else having their arms and hands shot off.
Oh, and the vat of acid, when he kind of drops in the acid and comes out with and his fingers, like, it looks like these sausages like hanging off his fingers as they stretch out, right? That was the bit that help me. Sticks in my mind.
Gets splattered by the car. It's hilarious.
Yeah, pretty much. Same sort of story. I think we went down to Blockbusters. I think we got this from Blockbusters in our town. There was a Blockbusters, and just a few doors down, there was an independent video rental store. But I'm pretty sure we got this one from Blockbusters. And in my memory, we did a double header there that day. We got Predator and Robocop. That's what I remember. But that is amazing. I mean, if that really happened, because who knows, I may have just invented this memory. But in my memory, we went into Blockbusters. Something had happened, because I can't even find. We do a lot of research for this, and I couldn't. I can't find what date, what month of the year it came out. But I think we were back at school. I got a feeling that something had happened. We'd been okay. Something had happened, like good or something at school, and we were allowed to get, my brother and I. So I was 14. My brother would have been 11. I mean, so yeah, I'm pretty sure John would have watched this when he was 11. And I got this feeling that we got Predator and Robocop at the same night.
Wow!
And I distinctly remember the guy working in Blockbusters smelt like he hadn't bathed or showered in about 3 weeks. It had a really funny smell in that Blockbusters that day.
I did also live in the same town, and yes, I agree that Blockbuster always stank.
Oh, right. Is that so I've got this memory of a smell and Predator and Robocop being rented on exactly the same evening. There's no way we watched both of them the same night. I don't know, how many days did you used to get VHS cassettes out? How long?
I want to say it was overnight, and you had to take it back the next day. But the one the story I was just saying about was our little independent one in the small town that I lived in before moving to where you lived. And I got a funny feeling that was overnight. I think, and if you got it the weekend, I think you could drop it in on the Monday, so you might sort of get Saturday and Sunday out of it. I think.
But because we used to also get a video van. A van used to come around our neighbourhood, and you'd get. And I think you'd have those quite a few days, because he wasn't coming to the streets every day. So it'd be like an ice cream van, but it's the video van man. The video van man's here. Everyone goes out to the street, go in the back of the van. He had all the covers all sort of like stuck up on the inside walls of the van, and you would select your film. That was pretty good. That was. Your films delivered to your door before anything like before you could rent DVDs and get them sent to your house, right? So anyway, I digress talking about video shops, but I'm sure the people who listen to us all love. I'm sure they've all got fond memories of going into Blockbusters and VHS stores. But yeah, RoboCop. From what I remember, it was a great film. I was a bit of a fan of 2000 AD Judge Dredd. And I know there's lots of kind of rumours that people thought that it was the film was inspired, let's say, by Dredd. Everyone seems to deny that. There's no that it wasn't a script thought of for Dredd, but then became RoboCop or anything like that. Doesn't help that there is a kind of sculpture online. You can find a sculpture of the RoboCop suit, and someone thought it'd be hilarious to sculpt like the torso and I think the head of Judge Dredd on it. So that didn't help any of the rumours. But they're both dystopian, slightly into the future concepts where there's a person who is judge, jury, and executioner. Walking the streets and dispensing justice. So a fascist sort of society, really. But when we were 14, I don't know if we ever thought of any of the commentary of what it was, the commentary that RoboCop was making on the commercialization and advertising and the industrial military complex and the way policing works, etc. I don't think we thought of that when we were 14. It was just like, oh great, there's this robot with a big gun.
Yeah, I think that's also partly perhaps one of the reasons why a lot of people got to see it. Because let's face it, if you can try and delete that memory, we obviously all know very much about RoboCop now. It's ingrained in us. But the word RoboCop, it sounds childlike. It sounds like it's a kid's thing. If you can get past, as I say, remembering it actually as being a violent 18 film, I wouldn't be too surprised if parents looked at it and thought, oh yeah, that'll be all right, because it sounds like a kiddie sort of film anyway.
Yeah, looking on, I mean, even just the Wikipedia entry for the film, it did get a lot of everyone sort of laughed at the name, right? Robocop. It doesn't sound so. It doesn't sound so silly to me. I don't know why. I don't know. Like I think at the time that many people criticised the name. Yeah, they didn't take it seriously, I guess, for that. But I don't think
it's not like. As I said, it's not like Predator, is it? I mean, that sounds like it's going to be an 18.
Yeah, Robocop. Yeah, maybe.
Predator.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
which one sounds like the more violent film, Robocop or Predator? I mean,
yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. Could you remember seeing a trailer for it then? Why did we want to watch it?
I back then you sort of did see trailers, didn't you, on videos? I mean, you anyone who's distinct possibility that might be some young person listening to us who has never watched a VHS, particularly a rented VHS, not one that you necessarily purchased, or even sometimes they had adverts at the beginning, but one you'd rent from the video shop, which they were sort of paying sort of between 60, 80, £100, weren't they? Than the actual video shop pay for them. Well, they were chock full of adverts at the beginning. You'd probably have maybe 4 or 5 trailers.
Yeah.
At the beginning on a video cassette.
At least,
it is possible. I as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we are doing this based on our memories. The whole point of the podcast is we try and remember something, and I don't remember where I heard about it. I don't remember whether I don't remember whether it was a trailer, or I doubt it would have been in the cinema. Well, I didn't go to the cinema much at that age. Well, when I was later teens, I did, but not then.
Well, I did ask my dad, because I think when you're 14, you don't really think of your parents perhaps as autonomous human beings. They're just there to serve all your needs, right? drive me here, make my food.
This is why you say such nice things about your kids, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And I did say to my dad, I said, well, why did you let us watch Robocop? And I think his response was, because I wanted to watch it.
Right.
So that's well, in your case, you said your mum's let you have it. Maybe kids at school were saying it, but I reckon we went to the cinema to go. There I am in my memory was like, oh yeah, I'd been good. I'd been a good boy. Mum and Dad let me watch Robocop. When the truth was, my dad had seen a trailer and he wanted to see Robocop. So, anyway, so I reckon we watched it probably because my dad wanted to watch it. I love Judge Dredd. I like that kind of concept as the future bleak kind of looking world, and concepts of justice and all this kind of sort of stuff. But like I say, I reckon all the social commentary is actually, if we watch it now, maybe we're going to spot like a lot of things that they talked about then and have come into fruition. I mean, I personally live in the US, so if I remember, I think there was a lot of running kind of, not exactly gags, but things in the film, from what I remember, like inserted into the film. There was almost ads.
Well, there was news broadcast, which I think actually starts the film, doesn't it? Don't they start with the news broadcast? They got a sort of American Chinese news reporter and a lady reporter. I seem to sort of doing is it Detroit? Is it you said Detroit?
I think it's set in Detroit, and then it's got
I forget what the news is called, but it might be called Detroit News, or I can't remember what it is, something like that. But yeah, it cuts to them, and then you see the adverts. I remember there was an advert for sunscreen.
Well, really?
So it was setting up that the sun was so bad then that you couldn't go out in the sun for more than 2 minutes. So they got this beautiful woman comes and sits by the pool, and she's covered in this special sunscreen, and it's green or something. That rings a vague bell that it was such a terrible. I'm sure there was one, and the car, the security system for the car. Do you remember that?
No, I can't remember that.
So it was, instead of like just a car alarm, it actually electrocutes you. You go up to the car and it's not your car; it electrocutes you or something like that. I seem to remember it. So there was quite a few sort of dystopian, violent, terrible adverts, making it was quite an awful world. Yeah,
yeah. And there was that. The guy says, "I'd buy that for $1," right? And
Yeah,
what's
which
he?
is a TV show which everyone's watching. All the other when it cuts to like any other character, they always seem to be watching that TV show.
Ah, really? God, you remember quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't know why. Well, I liked it. I remember really, really, really liking RoboCop.
Do you think you
And
see? Have you seen it a few times? Do you think?
I watched it. I've watched it a few times. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I haven't. Phew, crikey, when's the last time I watched it? I actually can't. I actually can't remember the last time I watched it. I mean, a lot of the time, films from back then, sort of 80s stuff, because my other half didn't have a television and didn't grow up with this sort of thing. I introduced her to a lot of these sort of films. So maybe
Okay,
say, "Oh,
cool.
wow, you must watch this. You must watch, Star Wars or whatever," But because she's not into, I'm fairly sure she won't like the violence in it. It won't be her sort of thing. This isn't one that I'll have re-watched because there's no point sitting there on my own, particularly watching it. I'd rather
Right.
share it with somebody. So I can guarantee it's one I've not watched for at least 20 plus years.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
probably the 90s, the last time that I saw it. And I remember, I say, really, really liking it. I remember being disappointed with the second one, which was just, it was more of an action thing. And it was about drugs, wasn't it? I forget what they call it. They had a sort of name for it. Do you remember the second one?
I can't remember if I've even seen the second one.
Yeah, it was sort of centered around Nuke. I think it's called Nuke or something. It's drug.
Okay.
Everyone. So it was a very sort of anti-drugs thing. So it's sort of, I don't know. It didn't have that same bleak, futuristic-y dystopian thing. Well, which to sort of Paul Verhoeven, isn't it? I think the guy who did this, who obviously did what's that other one with all the fighting the aliens. Oh God, I can't remember what it's called now.
Fighting the Starship Trooper.
Yeah, which again is that sort of weird sort of future, as you say, sort of
Yeah. Well, it will be interesting to see if we can spot this sort of stuff, or if that was just kind of like people trying to be more clever than make it out to be more clever than it really was. I mean, if we watch it now, are we going to see a standard violent action film, or are we really going to see something that's predicted the future? Like I was saying, living in the US, and when you do turn the ordinary TV on and you see all these adverts for crazy things, all the like drugs and all the medicines and stuff, which normally in Europe you can't do, it does kind of remind me of that kind of bleak world that was in Robocop. So we will. It'll be interesting to watch and see that. And at the time, I've already mentioned Predator, right? But I'm looking here, and it's like, so it was up against Full Metal Jacket, Beverly Hills Cop 2,
Running Man.
Was Running Man out then at the same time?
Running Man, Predator. So Arnie had 2 in 1987.
Well, I did read. I saw a quick. Well, I had a quick look because there's the RoboDoc, the creation of Robocop, coming out, right? I don't know if that's only coming out in the UK. I don't know if it's here in the US. When I was looking for that, I did see an article talking about how Sylvester Stallone almost was the principal actor in Robocop. That he'd wanted to do it.
Well, I could well imagine.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be RoboCop, but it went something like they tried thinking about a suit for him, and he was going to look too bulky, like the Michelin Man, and that's what stopped him from becoming RoboCop, apparently. Yeah.
Well, and he wouldn't have done a good job as, I forget the lead actor's name, but he was is it Peter Weller?
Yes, it is Peter Weller. Yeah.
He spent a long time
eating baby food,
eating baby food, and perfecting the RoboCop walk. He was an actor who was capable of doing.
Couldn't even move. He couldn't even move in the suit.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's the suit partly dictated the movements in documentary stuff I've seen in the past, but he did spend time perfecting the walk and working with it, and was an actor who'd done physical acting, who'd done physical theatre type acting, and was capable of doing mask work. Give Arnie his due. I enjoy his film. He's not an actor of that sort. I don't think we'd have ended up with quite the nuanced movements that he managed to pull out of that costume.
I don't know, but they've also remade Quantum Leap.
Robocop.
And they've remade, coming back to Robocop, they have made there was a new Robocop, right?
Was it
And I have not seen it.
or something?
No, I've not seen it. So when we do pause to watch it, how are you going to watch Robocop? Because
I actually do have in my grubby little mitts the DVD special edition.
Yeah, so that won't be quite like the one that we saw, probably. It's probably got extra bits and bobs.
Well, it's certainly got extras on the DVD. You can watch a director's cut or the original theatrical version.
Well, I'm going to dust off.
I ought to watch the original theatrical version, seeing as that's what we saw when we were little kids.
That's a good idea.
A documentary, a featurette, another featurette shooting it, making Robocop, TV commercial trailers, photo gallery, storyboard, commentary with Paul Verhoeven. And screenwriter Edward Numier and John Davison, the actual people who did the screenwriting. And a collectible booklet, which actually is in here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the collectible booklet. Isn't that nice? I don't know what's collectible about it. It's a whole 4 pages of
collection novels.
Collection. Oh, it does point out that there was an animated TV series and a Marvel comic book series. That's what's really weird.
Afterwards. Yeah,
it was like a kids thing. We ended up with a cartoon. Your Saturday morning telly had Robocop cartoon on the back of an 18 film.
And there was also I just read also this morning that there was a board game which came with another VHS cassette, with one of those board games where it tells you to like forward to a certain section on the tape and play, and you get some sort of question or something like that.
Oh, like Atmosphere.
Exactly. And it was made for also that was also a 12-year-old version. You know, so it was a board game based.
That sounds good.
A board game based on an 18 movie, but the game itself was just for 12-year-olds. I mean, what? Everyone knew that we were all watching it, didn't they? They all knew it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean,
how many other? I suppose you'd have to sort of call it horror, sci-fi, action. It'd be hard to put a genre on this, but how many other films that were 18s back in 1987 ended up with a cartoon?
Well, I think that's about it. I mean, what else? Any other memories you need to share with us before we go off and watch it?
Other than that, it did spawn a lot of other stuff, a lot of computer games, which we've already covered. One of them, didn't we? The Spectrum.
Well, that was a good one.
The famous Spectrum game that remained number one for 1 million years. But there was a lot of others and a lot of other films. There was, I think, 3 Robocop films in the end, weren't there? The original series. I remember the second one, the third one. Oh, there was certainly a game. Was there a third film?
I think there was a third film because a Secret Santa gave me a box set once, and I don't know where it is, but
oh God, you're a fucking nightmare, man. You got all these collectibles. Don't need that.
I moved house too often.
Oh, I'll rub it in. I've moved house too often.
Moved house too often.
I can't be bothered to get a pool man in. I just move house. Jesus.
We were 14 We're now knocking on 50. We'll have a look at the film.
I'm a year
Have
younger than you.
get my hearing aid in. Turn, get my glasses on. Get a nice cup of cocoa. Get a blanket out. Turn the gas fire up to 11.
Popcorn.
Popcorn.
Jif under the sink.
What?
Or is it Vim? Vim.
How would we have watched it back in the day? So that would have been on a brown sofa.
Oh God, yeah.
VHS cassette in. Remote control with a cable connecting it to the VHS player.
God, yeah. The luxury of being able to sit away from the machine. We didn't have that. I had to get on my hands and knees and press the button.
Well, it would have been rewound, right? Because if you couldn't return a cassette to the shop if it wasn't rewound, would you get fined?
Kind rewind.
Would you get fined?
The woman at our shop made you go out the back and she'd spank you. The amount of times I'd go back with videos that weren't rewound.
The tape's in, get in the lounge, we're going to watch it.
Yeah, I seem to remember that cry. Yeah.
Come on, we're ready, we're waiting for you.
And it'd be on pause, it'd be going, never paused properly. Well, there we are, folks. That's us. We've dribbled on far too long about this. We need to go and watch it now. So that's what we're going to do. If you'd like to pause the podcast or the YouTube video, if you're joining us on a YouTube channel, do go and watch Robocop and come back in a few seconds and see what we thought of it. Protect the upload, the trust law. Trust. I'd buy that for $1. And we're back. Well, this is a first for us. We have literally just finished watching the film. Not only is this our first film review, in heavy inverted commas, this is also a break from our normal routine. We have literally just finished watching the film and we hit record straight away. So you're getting the fresh viewpoint of two people in two different time zones. This is the only thing that's linking us is we've watched Robocop and our missus happened to be away.
Well, and we're cousins.
Well, no, that everyone already knows that. No, that's got nothing to do with the film. Though,
that's true.
You're over there in America. We're able to watch it middle of the day. And
lunchtime.
I'm here recording at stupid o'clock at night, having watched Robocop. And before we get into it, wow, that was brilliant.
You didn't fall asleep?
I was so relieved. Producer John said he was really worried about watching it. He has watched it as well. He was worried about spoiling that thing, the very thing we were talking about in the first half of the podcast, where we try and remember things before re-experiencing them after, in this case, nearly 40 years. I don't know, whatever it is, 30-something. It lives up to my memories of it being as good. It was as good as I remember it being. It was really good. Did you like it?
Yes, but it's nothing like the first time because there's no. I mean, it must have been a surprise, right? Everything must have been a real shock because it even starts off fairly kind of serious-ish, kind of, and you. I mean, there's no violence until there's a little bit of toing and throwing in the police station, but it's nothing radical until they get to the boardroom and they unveil Ed 209, and he accidentally, breaks his programming's wrong and ends up killing one of the board members or one of the junior board members.
I suppose we ought to point out anyone who is listening to this as a review, we are going to heavily spoil this film. If anyone's got to this point in the podcast.
So the first bit of extreme violence is this guy in the boardroom is told to threaten Ed 209 with a gun. He does so, puts the gun down, so then Ed 209, this big robot, should not do anything, but then goes ahead and kills him very violently. And then you get that feeling like, oh, this film's a bit different because like half the boardroom didn't care. So half of them were screaming, and the other ones were like, "This just happens, right?"
And the other one's
that was the first extreme thing.
Who was that guy?
Yeah, but in general, it was better than I thought it was going to be, and
Really?
it was still pretty good. I mean, I had to pay another $4 to watch it on streaming. So, what with Blockbuster rental and like I say, I used to have it on DVD. So, how many times have I paid for Robocop as well?
Yeah, well,
It's like,
you and me both. I mean, yeah.
That's another big discussion about, again, this, especially following kind of retro news and retro fans, when people discuss about physical over digital and streaming and all that sort of stuff. This is a case in point. I've owned Robocop before. I just kind of maybe gave it away or something. I don't know.
Well, I was pretty horrified when I said to you, we tried to watch the same version because, I mean, obviously we wanted to sort of watch it at the same time, finish watching it at the same time so we could jump on here and do the recording. The DVD that I bought, and I bought that for $1, which I literally did. It was £1 in the charity shop, but it was the special edition. I think we mentioned it in the first part, where it's got the original theatrical release, what we presumably saw on VHS. I don't know, I guess it was, unless it was edited from the version in the theatre, I don't know. But there's also a director's cut, which is slightly longer, so we tried to watch the same version. So we'd finish at the same time, which is another DVD I've got. Sorry, guffaw, not allowed to laugh. It was also an 18. But yeah, so but I was sent when I asked Chris, I said, well, you're renting it. Oh yeah, $4. So how much is it to buy? And what was it?
I think it was 12 to buy.
So what, £10 to actually buy?
I could have signed up to MGM Plus on a subscription, and that seemed to have it as part of its catalogue. But I was a bit, I'm a bit full out on subscriptions. I'll just rent it. Well, so just rent it on Prime Video. But I'm
surprised. I mean, both of us have got at least 3 streaming services between us, and it wasn't on any of them for free.
No. So there you go. Keep your physical copies.
But you are.
Don't throw them out when you move.
I found 2 in the charity shops of the special editions with all the extras, DVD commentaries, making of, featurettes, all that sort of stuff. I've found 2 copies of it. One I've sent to producer John, and one I've got. So I've spent a grand total of about £2, and I get to keep the film and watch it whenever I want.
All the times you want to.
I'll watch it again now.
Watch it again. Go on, don't go to sleep. Just stay up and watch it again. Should we go?
Go on.
Go on.
I was just going to say that is a good gauge of how good the film was. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't start, checking Facebook, or which you quite often do, sat at home watching a film. Maybe in the cinema you don't, but at home, you get distracted, or I don't know, go and get another drink or whatever. I sat and watched it, let's face it, it's an 80s film. It was 1 hour 36 or something.
Gosh, that was good.
It was over so quickly.
It was quicker than I mean, I knew how long it was going to last because we could see when we started, but it did feel quick. So that was, you're right. I wasn't like sat there bored.
No.
But it is a bit of a refreshing thing to watch a film that's not 2.5 hours now. So that was good. The best bit was it was very short.
Join us next time when we watch The Never-Ending Story.
June. Should we go? I mean, do you want to go like bit by bit through it, or just general kind of?
You've taken some notes, haven't you?
I took some.
All I did is write down the various quotable lines.
I can't remember 5 minutes ago. I had to note it down. So I mean, actually, generally, I thought the whole kind of the TV snippets, the ads, I mean, there's one quite close to the beginning, and there's probably less prominence or less importance than I thought they did, which also makes me think, in general, like when we watched this when we were 14, I'm sure we only saw it as an action film.
Oh God,
And
yeah.
when I watched it now, for all the talk, I think on the internet, if you read articles, it's like, oh, this clever kind of like it's an opinion about the advertising and the modern world and et cetera, et cetera. It was still an action film, right? I mean, those snippets in between, which kind of built that bigger picture of it's all about corruption and it's all about this, the dark future and advertising everywhere and all this sort of stuff.
Big business running the police.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. And they had, but those are all kind of explained in the snippets, the advertising and stuff, and most of it was just the action, right? I mean, I wonder if at the time, because I think in UK you don't think about, the police being private, so the police aren't private, but you've got private prisons here in the US, so that was kind of one of the steps towards that. Maybe, I don't know. The actual prisons are big business right here. But anyway, the first ad was the kind of pick your own heart, and they said Yamaha. I can't remember the different brands, but there were two different brands. It's like
Yamaha,
choose Honda and Yamaha, choose your own.
Yeah. Remember, we care.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, you can get tax credits. I mean, it's like tax credits. There's always a lot of talk about tax here in the US as well, because people like donate money and then they use that as like tax write-offs or whatever. And I just like kind of sort of stuff where I've never heard so many people talk about tax, the way it works. So that's kind of like a US thing. And yeah, it was interesting, those kind of brands, right, for the hearts. I think there was a brand. I think there was a brand later, because later there's a bad guy who's got the mayor prisoner or something, and he's negotiating with the policeman outside. He goes, oh, get me a big car. And he wants the 6000 SUX.
Yeah, I want one. I want one after watching the film. The adverts work, man.
6000 SUX. It's like, when you hear it, okay, the SUX. But then later in the film, there's an advert for it, and it comes up on the screen, 6000 SUX. It's the 6000 sucks. It's like, okay, I get that joke now. And but he goes something like, the policeman goes, yeah, because he goes, I want a fast car. And he goes, oh, how about the 6000 SUX? Oh yeah, great. Does that have cruise control? Yeah, we'll throw that in or whatever. And he goes, we'll even throw in a Blaupunkt. So I think so. He's referring to a stereo system that were all the rage for the cars, right? I mean, you used to get an upgrade your stereo in car. No, I don't suppose many people upgrade their stereos in cars now. You buy one and they're kind of like built in. It's all sort of it's all integrated. So I think that was like throwing out that term. So it's funny how those things age, right? Your Yamaha heart and your Blaupunkt system. Yeah. I thought that was funny.
It did start off quite quickly. It showed that this is a bleak world. There was no messing about. That's Paul Verhoeven's thing, which echoes in the rest of the films that he's done. You immediately, bang! This is a terrible world, and you don't. This is something I didn't get the first time I watched it when I was a kid, and it's only really revealed later on. But that first scene, here in the booklet that comes with the DVD, it's got the tracks or chapters as they call it. Well, the chapter one, obviously main title, chapter 2 is New Guy. Well, that's right. Murphy turning up. Now he's obviously been transferred, and the captain, I can't think of the captain guy behind the counter says, oh yeah, that's a nice county. You've been transferred from a nice place. But of course you realise later on that the whole Robocop program, he admits it, right, we've selected certain people and put them in areas so that they die. Right. We are going to get our brain and backbone to be able to put into the robot shell, but by selecting good cops, well trained, well bred, perhaps better educated, moving them from a different area to a terrible area, So that there's a more chance of them getting killed, so that can be. I mean, I didn't see that at all as a kid.
No.
I
I wouldn't
hadn't
have
noticed that.
No. And at the time, also it's interesting, right? The context of watching it now, and they're in the changing room as well, right? The police getting ready, they're putting their body armor on or taking
Men
it off.
and women together.
Men and women together
Naked.
in the same changing room.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they are not ultra muscular, right?
Yeah.
No one looks like in shape. I mean, if you watch a film now, everyone's going to be got their six pack. It doesn't matter if they're a B character, just a what are they called? An actor who's not really an actor. Someone's just filling up space in the background.
Oh, supporting.
An extra. Oh, supporting artist.
Supporting artist, darling.
Sorry, supporting artists. Even the supporting artists, are all muscle bound, right? Like Matt, but now our hero, it's just like this, like kind of normal looking
he's the
bloke.
Bookworm. Yeah, he's the nice clean cut guy from a different area.
Well, he's so clean cut, looks like he's got makeup on.
Yeah,
he's like kind of got blush on his lips are so.
I mean, it's funny you mention that. In the booklet that comes with it, there's a bit here from the lady that plays Lewis. She's the daughter of a uniformed sergeant from New York, Nancy Allen. That's the actress. Had the perfect experience from which to eventually draw inspiration for her role as Robocop's tough crime-fighting partner. Lewis is quoted as saying, "Dad definitely had a dark side to him. He was very wary of people, cynical, mistrustful. He was always quick to point out what a dangerous world it was out there." Alan, who appeared in all three of the Robocop films, I didn't realise that, didn't grow up tough. Known for her roles as sexy, feminine characters, Alan had to work hard to transform into the tough-as-nails cop. "I went to a police academy to learn martial arts, to shoot, and how to do arrest procedures properly," she explained. "Then I realised I had to walk differently, less slinky, more from the stomach than the hips," she continued. "And I had to lower my voice so I wouldn't sound like the cutesy pie that I really am." I mean, I think that says it all. So that, so casting wise, this is a woman who is known for doing pretty stuff, however you want to put it. But in that, it's just that's not what they wanted her to do in it.
Yeah, well, apart from
just wanted to be a tough female cop. They didn't choose. She hasn't got long hair. I mean, you never ever get a leading lady, particularly in the 80s. Maybe now, maybe the Marvel stuff or whatever you might get, or But back then, they'd have all had long hair, tall, which she's none of those things.
Well, I mean, but even now, even if they're a gritty hero, there's still a sexualized sort of element to most casting and most films, right? Whilst in this, there was no romance between her and Murphy. They were they hardly knew each other. So they could hardly even be friends. It was like the first day Murphy was there, he gets mowed down, right? Yeah. But she had a connection. She was the one who recognized that it was actually Murphy beneath all the cybernetics.
Yeah.
But there are two scenes. There's a kind of two men attempting to rape someone, which is a nasty scene. Yeah. Then there's also the two. Are they prostitutes? Two women with one of the enemies, with one of the bad guys. Forgot his name now.
Yeah,
not Dick, but the one who was challenging Dick.
Yeah. Got on DVD too.
But I mean, so it was. So there's the only women, But so Lewis is a strong, character. Although, got to say, the whole thing could have been avoided. I mean, he could have, he didn't need to become Robocop because they're outside they're outside that shut down steel workplace, factory, whatever.
Yeah.
And so Murphy says, "It's up to you, Lewis. Are we going in? because they just called
backup.
They just called for backup. There's no backup.
Yeah.
So they're sat in the car and he goes, "It's up to you. Should we go in?" She goes, "Yeah, let's go." So the two of them against, I don't know, there's 6 enemies.
Six,
I don't know.
six blades. Yeah.
And then Murphy gets absolutely destroyed.
But it moves the story along, darling. It has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if that didn't happen, it wouldn't be much of a film. I don't know if they could have called it Robocop there.
It'd be called Backup.
But maybe there is another film, a prequel, where there was another character, another person that they were following that they thought was going to die to become Robocop, but never did because he never went. Someone they bookmarked. Oh, this is a great candidate to become Robocop. And
I think you've just worked out the plot for the next Monty Python film.
I think so. spoof Robocop. But did you know that they've just put like a robot on patrol in New York? Apparently, have you seen that in the news?
No.
Yeah. There's actually a robot in New York patrolling the streets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you sure this isn't one of those robots that just delivers stuff for Amazon?
Unveils K5 robot. God, they missed a trick there. They may as well have gone straight for the Doctor Who thing, right?
Well, they might as well have done.
K5 is a robot that will patrol the Times Square subway station in the overnight hours. It's equipped with multiple cameras and two-way communication and intended to deter crime and to capture crimes in progress. And it is equipped with a panic button that riders can use to alert patrol officers.
It's a camera that moves around.
It's a camera on wheels.
It's a camera with a button on it. Can you fly, Bobby? They throw him out of the truck.
That's right. Yeah. They throw him out of the truck.
Yeah, Bobby.
Bobby. Yeah. You texted. You sent me that in a message, and I just noted it down. Yeah, can you fly, Bobby? That was crazy.
Well, I mean, Robocop gets tons of lines as well. Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Yeah, I suppose there is that character when the guy he is taking when he's taking a leak, and Lewis comes in and says, "Put your hands up," and he goes, "Oh, do you mind if I pull my zipper up or whatever?" And she looks down. She looks down at it. I mean, it's
a really good moment, though, isn't it? It's really well timed. They're both looking at each other's eyes, and he's thinking, "She's going to." Yeah. I'm not. She's thinking I'm not. And then she fucking does.
She gets knocked out. Another reason Murphy had to become Robocop, because she wasn't available to help him because she got knocked out.
Dubry.
Yeah.
Her own fault.
Yeah, well, sexist writers, I guess.
I mean, one of the notes I've made here on that, was we've got to the bit now we're about to see what happens to Murphy, is it's a brutal origin story. If you look at it as it's basically a superhero movie on a certain level, the level we probably looked at when we were kids. It's a superhero story. Robocop, which is, as we mentioned in the first part of the thing of the podcast, it's a very superhero-y name, Robocop. I think it's we were saying about perhaps it's why our parents let us watch it, blah, blah, blah. Because it doesn't sound... If this had a name that actually fitted the brutality of this film, the bleakness, the violence, there's very little holds barred in it. The only thing you don't see is sex. But it's about the only thing you don't see in it. Everything else is in it. Limbs being blown off, drugs. Yeah. It's pretty brutal.
Drugs and violence.
It's pretty bad, but I don't know why. I don't know. Perhaps we'll think of something and put it on the screen. we'll think of some names later on. Alternate Robocop names. They're on the screen now. But it's basically, it's like, I don't know, like Wolverine origin, or it's very similar to that. It's a similar story, isn't it? He is a guy that has the adamantium. Sort of bones put into it. They replace his bones with a sort of that impenetrable, unbreakable metal, and give him the spikes that come out of his hands, which also Robocop has got.
I mean, why did they ever? Yeah, they had to it had to be spiky to be able to access the data. Right, the inputs.
It's so prescient, the things in it, and how modern world is almost exactly everything they got right. in
Well,
Robocop. The
your
tracker.
USB ports. Your USB port is a spike, is it? Your
Yeah,
USB
yeah,
port.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have you not got the Robocop USB set?
No, and the tracker. Yeah, that was kind of like that's okay when it's that kind of like line. It was a tracker, and obviously they didn't. Obviously, it's out of date, but because it was just kind of like orange lines, I kind of let that. I accept that. It's a bit like in Star Wars, right? When they come up with all
With the
that
tablets. Yeah.
fake stuff, and that, well, that's okay. What has dated poorly, I suppose, are all the TVs, all the CRT TVs that are around.
Yeah.
They're not flat panels. They didn't think anything about that. And the cars. The cars are completely. I mean, the cop car that he uses. I mean, you obviously never see Robocop get in a car. Right? He probably can't even fit in it. It's just he's got a totally ordinary car.
No, I don't.
And then they also included the silly things, a bit like with the Daleks or whatever. They can't go downstairs. Like the first time Robocop fights with Ed 209, the Ed 209 falls down a flight of stairs. So it's like, what a design flaw. Oh, there's some stairs.
But it's handled really well. I mean, it's also partly some sort of comic relief in a way, isn't it? Because it throws a tantrum, and Ed 209 throws a tantrum later on.
Yeah.
Is it the second time? Anyway.
But I like the stop motion animation. You said that you might have seen some mistakes with some of the stuff.
I say mistakes. No, it's not mistakes, but it's something that perhaps now would have been removed with CGI. Yeah. But that scene where he's tried to arrest the second in command, Dick, at the OCP headquarters. I mean, it's there we revealed to us what the directive for is, that he's not allowed to arrest anyone from OCP. But Ed 209 actually shoots, I don't know, what are they, sort of missile type things rather than just the guns. He actually shoots these missiles, and you can see the string that presumably it's a firework attached to a string that's just aims towards Mr. Weller in his suit as he tries to get around the corner to get away from the firework. But
I think the suit worked still, right?
The actual Robocop suit.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's flipping amazing. It's really good. I mean, again, this is out of the booklet that came with it. John Davison knew Robocop's suit would be the single most important element in making the cyborg believable for the audience. And he's quoted as saying, if he walks like C-3PO or is a man in a rubber suit like Howard the Duck or Swamp Thing, you've got a problem. So there was no chintzing on the suit. It was the single most expensive item in the picture. From an artistic point of view, said director Verhoeven, Robocop had to be a contradiction: elegant, powerful, futuristic, yet electronic, human, and real. Working to meet these specifications, it took Oscar-winning creator-designer Rob Bottin 6 months to sculpt Robocop's costume. But Bottin had to worry more that it was just the look of the costume. Technically, it would also have to hold up through chases, explosions, gun battles, and stunts. And in order to keep it durable, Bottin found himself working with chemicals I'd never heard of before, some deadly. According to Peter Weller, the costume was immense, huge. It took me 10.5 hours to put it on the first time. I know.
That's not an exaggeration.
Donning the suit was so confined with. Donning the suit was a confinement which drained him of 2.5 pounds of water a day, as temperatures within the suit rose to a stifling 115 degrees. Over the course of the film's sequels, though, the costume would become easier to handle and easier to wear. In the second film, we went completely with fiberglass, which allowed Weller greater mobility and saved a lot of time in wardrobe and makeup.
Did you say chintzing? There was no chintz.
There was no. He was quoted as saying no chintzing. Yeah.
Well, I did very much like the way. I mean, this is clearly very good acting. I like the way that he'd move his head to one side and then move his torso afterwards. The kind of that robotic kind of swivel. I thought that was great. He did it. There were 2 or 3 times where they kept the camera on him doing it, and it was like, oh yeah, that looks cool. He's doing that right well. I
was just going to say, there's another thing about that again in this booklet that comes with the DVD. They were saying it wasn't easy to find an actor willing to spend a couple of months inside a rubber suit in Dallas in the summer with 5 square inches of his face showing. I mean, he's a talented guy with good body language. Enter Peter Weller, an actor who'd begun his career on Broadway and who would step up to the plate to play Robocop in the first 2 films of the trilogy, so he's not in the third one. Weller had his work cut out for him. After reading everything I could about robotics, he said, I spent 4 months with a professional mime developing a kind of motion which would both be graceful and mechanical. Using meditation, he learned to withstand the sense of suffocation he felt when thrust into a 25-pound casing. Weller certainly mastered the physical demands of the role, but more importantly, he was able to achieve a greater goal, to breathe through the robot to give the contraption a soul. There was a lot of work went into Robocop, a lot of work.
Well, that's right. With any content, there's always a lot of work, isn't there?
Imagine... I mean, you just think about it. This is a low-budget film with a director who's only really cutting his teeth making this, and the 2 principal actors. She spent months learning how to be a policewoman, Lewis, and he spent 4 months being a mime just to get the motions of the character.
4 months. Well, anyway, it was the result.
You do it.
I'll go
and then spend 18 months making a film or whatever it was.
When Peter Crouch did it, the robot, when he scored the goals he did the robot dance perfectly.
And ironically, he was being paid the amount it cost to make the film.
So I think they may have spent most of the budget on the special effects for when Emil gets smashed into the toxic waste vat. Now, that is, as a kid, I think that was the scene that all kids remembered.
Oh yeah,
I don't think I really remembered. There was 2 scenes I thought I can't remember this. I couldn't remember exactly how they killed Murphy, but then when his hand got shot off, I think I remembered that, but I couldn't remember. Maybe I kind of closed my eyes. Maybe I didn't want to watch it when I was 14. I don't know. But I didn't remember that. And I didn't remember the bit where all the police try and mow him down as well, because the police had been told that they had to stop Robocop. And there was Lewis and a couple of others saying, no, he's a cop, don't kill him. And they go, no, we've been told to kill him, or whatever, kill the product, or whatever they said. But the scene I think that we all talked about at school was Emil.
Yeah.
When he comes out the toxic vat and his face was all melted, and when he gets hit then by Clarence, who's driving the car, and it's just like liquefied. Everything inside him has become liquefied. Splats and splashes across the windscreen. Yeah, that was the scene I reckon we all remembered.
Totally.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I think you're right. It's funny you say about him being shot by all the policemen. We obviously didn't remember it because we didn't mention it in the first part of the thing. But once it was on, once I was watching it, it's like, oh yeah, this bit. You know, I remembered it when I saw it, but no, I hadn't. I didn't know that bit was coming up. Whereas, as you say, the guy driving the van into the toxic waste thing and then him getting splattered on there was plenty of parts where I thought, oh, it's this bit, and I was sometimes saying the lines as they were saying them. There were plenty of bits I knew what it was. But yes, you're quite right, that bit I had sort of forgotten about. I don't know why, but I certainly had. There was Lewis helping Murphy get his gun sights back together by shooting the baby food. There were smaller scenes like that, which I really remembered quite distinctly. I don't know why, because not a lot's happening in that scene.
Well, yeah, but the whole baby food thing. I think we mentioned it in the when we tried to remember the game as well. So that was the baby food thing. That kind of did stick in my mind.
Yeah. I love that the guy tries it. He goes, "Oh, it tastes like baby food." It's quite nice.
Well, so in general, so you think you go and watch it again?
I'd watch this again. Yeah, it's a film I would watch again. Yeah,
would
definitely.
you buy it for $1?
I have.
Well, you already
I
did.
bought it twice. I bought it twice this year.
I rented it for $4. You bought it twice this year. I rented it for $4. God, they should make someone with some stats somewhere. Do the charity shops send stats back into the distributors? We've just sold 2 Robocops. Could you make a sequel?
Yeah, I expect the Blu-ray's good.
One thing when I was looking for it was that there was a TV show which I can't remember seeing at all.
Well, that's mentioned in the booklet here.
Yeah, so I do have access to the TV show on one of the streaming platforms, and I don't know anything about that.
Live-action TV series in which 5 original costumes designed for and worn in the 3 movies were used, an animated TV series, Marvel comic book series, a theme park ride, which was in Los Angeles County Fair in Pomona, 1993, and obviously it mentions the arcade game, and there's a million other games which we've already gone over. If people want to watch our Robocop games retrospective, I'll put the link below.
And there's a new game coming as well.
And the new game. So yeah, Robocop lives on. It is one of those enduring characters from the 80s, which still lives on, and good on it. I think is a good film.
Yeah, it was better than I thought it was going to be. Like I said, about 10 years ago or so, I did try and watch Rocky, and I thought that was incredibly slow compared to my memories of Rocky. Rocky 1. But this was good. This was good. It flew by. It was good stuff.
Yeah,
I'd buy that for $1.
Well, it's 11 out of 10.
Two thumbs up.
2 thumbs up from you. Well, there you are, folks. You've heard it all right from the horse's mouth. It's a good film. Go and watch it. If you've never watched it, blimey, well, you wasted your life, really, because you've just heard all about it here now. It's kind of pointless you watching it now. But it's still a good film. And if you have watched it, what do you remember? Have you watched it recently? Like us. We watched it literally 20 minutes ago. So pop down into the comments below. Let us know. We'd like to hear your thoughts about Robocop. Do like, subscribe, and all those other groovy things. We've got a what's that thing people can sign up to, and they get emails annoying them every day in their spam.
A newsletter, but it's very rarely sent. When we release a new episode and things, and important, interesting information will be sent.
We won't really spam you.
No.
We've got nothing to spam you about.
No, we can't think of anything. Scraping the barrel on ideas.
So do sign up to that. As I say, do like and subscribe, and do watch some of our other groovy stuff. There's lots of other things to keep you entertained in the wee hours. Enjoy a can of baby food now, and we'll slip off and watch some of the other DVDs that I've got.
Bye.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.